Groken is one of the top picks on my list of indie comics that I wish got more attention. And since issue 3 is currently being crowdfunded, here's my chance to come back from the dead to talk about it, and hopefully then make a video or two I planned a long time ago. Groken is a sci-fi fantasy, or science fantasy if you prefer, series by Kenneth Rocafort, who for my money is one of the best comic artists around. Let's kick off this review with the best and worst things that readers of this comic will notice fairly quickly. The best thing is that the art is absolutely gorgeous. Ken has created this very complex and fairly unique fantasy kitchen sink universe that he's rendered in beautiful detail. You could probably go through these comics for hours just spotting all the little details on all the panels. On the downside is the dialogue. It's rather clunky. Let me read the intro text that opens each issue to show you what I mean. In a rotten era where myths were sadly forgotten and science corrupted the hopes of a good tomorrow, a singular theory makes the regiment shudder, and the system fears that the secret will be revealed and that the right to the crown will be claimed by the myth, a creature who bears the name of Groken. Groken, born as a beast, forged as a man. The last part of that sounds cool. The rest is extremely confusing until you read the comic. The regiment is actually a group in the comic, and they're only really introduced in issue 2, for example. The comic is wordy, characters talk a lot about in-universe things without explaining them, so the audience isn't going to understand much of it initially. It's gradually revealed. There was a pre-Joss Whedon era of comics in the late 80s through the early 2000s when this style of writing was quite popular. I'd implore you to stick it out though, because once you wade through the dialogue, the plot and characters are actually quite interesting. So what is Groken about? The comic opens with a character named Enzo, who's being held in this crazy prison called the Candle of Hope. Enzo is talking to his guard. He says a lot of stuff about how people have forgotten the old legends, but the important part is that at some point in the past, some scientists captured the last of the dragons and developed something called macabre science, which they used to take over the world.
Of course!
The comic doesn't directly explain what macabre science is, but based on what we see, it mainly involves turning people into all sorts of weird, powerful monsters. The comic then goes to a lab fortress of one of these mad science technocrats who have taken over, where an unseen subject is being experimented on. The subject wakes up, kills the creatures experimenting on him, and escapes. This is, of course, Groken, our protagonist. Despite Groken looking like and being introduced in a way fitting for a dark and gritty anti-hero, he's actually probably the most down-to-earth character in the comic. When he fights this giant green monster man in a town, he even takes measures to protect all the villagers. He's more of a straight-up hero than an anti-hero, despite his appearance. I really like his design. He's all mutated and grotesque looking, but still aesthetically has a lot of callbacks to a classic knight in shining armor feel. The main plot of the comic so far has covered Groken's escape and pursuit by the henchmen of Madame Machiavella, who is the ruler of that mad science fortress he escaped from. Along the way, he gets helped by some allies, mainly this girl named Stella Griffin. Sometimes her name is spelled with one L, sometimes two. These books do have the occasional typo, unfortunately. The other side plots start getting tied together and into the main plot a bit more in Volume 2, although there are still a lot of unanswered questions. Enzo was involved in this group that tried to save the dragons from being wiped out, since the dragons are the only beings with the power to defeat the macabre scientists, I guess. And it seems to be suggesting that this group's efforts have something to do with the creation of Groken. This golden knight man who was resurrected by this caterpillar man was also a member of that group, so it's pretty clear by the end of Volume 2 that all these different plot threads will tie together in a cohesive way. The comic is just taking its time to reveal everything to the reader. So it's good this stuff is not random nonsense. It makes it much more enjoyable. This very weird and alien world gradually becomes more comprehensible. Crowdfunding for issue 3 only has like 5 days left, so if this piqued your interest and you have the money, I'd highly recommend it. You can get all 3 issues and catch up. To my knowledge, this isn't a series that's easy to find online or anywhere when it's not crowdfunding. I know I've criticized some aspects of it, but it really is one of the most interesting as well as nicest looking ongoing indie series right now, and I think the pros far outweigh the cons. That's all for now. I'm going to be reviewing more indie comic series and books in the future. Like, subscribe, and comment if you'd like to see more. Thanks, and have a great day.